Hey everyone, Chris here, and you're watching me on the Quantum Leap Podcast YouTube channel. Nothing strange about that. But the show you're about to see isn't about Quantum Leap, but Star Trek. It's the premiere of a new show called Trexploration that Albie and I have begun, where we will be exploring the Star Trek universe one episode at a time. And we're kicking things off with the next gen premiere Encounter at Farpoint. So this is the way Trexploration is going to work. We're going to be doing at least one episode a week, primarily about next gen. So Encounter at Farpoint will be followed by the rest of season 1. That will be available on the main channel. We'll also be doing the premiere of the new stuff. Like Discovery's coming out next week. We'll be doing the first episode of Discovery. And then we will be doing bonus content, bonus shows about all of the other shows in the franchise, including the original series and Deep Space Nine and Voyager and Enterprise and anything else you can think of. That will be as bonus content on our Patreon feed. That's patreon.com/Trexploration. You can go there and join for free and see the tiers and the levels that we have. But we just wanted to give you the premiere of what we're doing because we had such a great time making this show. It's a lot of fun. We think you'll get a lot of laughs. And you can follow us on our YouTube channel, on all the socials. You'll find the links below right down there. Just click on them and put them in your favorites. I think that this is some of the most fun stuff that we've done as a team since Albie and I have met. So I'm really excited for all of you to see this. Please tuck in. It's going to be a long one, but I think it's worth it. So without further ado, here is the premiere of Trexploration. On with the show.
Trexploration.
Hello, Trekkies, and welcome to... What's this called?
Trexploration. It's
Trexploration.
our premiere episode, and you don't even know the name of the show.
I don't even know it. I just hit record.
I mean, listen, we came up with it, what, last night?
Yeah, it was last night, and it was at the end of an hour-and-a-half session trying to figure out the name after we had already hung up and decided on another name. Then we got this name. So, Trexploration.
Trexploration, which I think rolls right off the tongue, which is, you know, it's a little bit better than the one that I had come up with before that. And so.
But once you say it a few times, it makes sense.
Yeah. Like exploration, but with Trek in front of it.
Trexploration.
Just in case it wasn't clear. This
we're
is
exploring the
clever.
Star Trek universe, right?
Yeah. I mean, are we doing it one episode at a time? Maybe
one
two episodes at a time?
Well, this time we're doing 2 episodes at a time because we're talking about Encounter at Farpoint. So that's a double episode. But I remember when I watched it the first time, it was one episode. It was a made-for-TV movie. It was 2 hours with commercials. Now it's only an hour and a half on streaming or Blu-ray or DVD or VHS or Laserdisc, which I have all of, by the way. I'm a fan. I don't know if you can tell. I'm a Trekkie. So many of you might not know us. Some of you might. We are podcasters. We've been doing this for a while. You might know us from the Quantum Leap podcast. We've been doing that for over 10 years. And we love talking about Quantum Leap, but there's only so many episodes. And Christopher and I'm Albie. That's Christopher. We end up talking a lot about Star Trek and different things and ideas about Star Trek and messaging about Star Trek. And I was like, hey, we should just talk about Star Trek on the show. And
because nobody else is talking about Star Trek. That's the beauty of this.
I don't think there are any other Star Trek podcasts out there.
Not at all. I mean,
not at all.
We've really struck
up the only one.
Yeah.
Might be the only one. I like to say we're the second best Star Trek podcast ever. The only after your favorite Star Trek podcast. After you listen to them, then come listen to us. That'd be great. But I know some people got excited when they found out we were doing this, and they were like, I haven't watched Star Trek, but you guys are doing it, so I'm going to watch Star Trek. So you never know.
There you go. See, we're already benefiting the franchise.
Yeah. So basically what the plan is, and I know there's like 900 episodes of Star Trek out so far, something around that number.
And growing. 10 million strong and growing.
All the time and all the movies. So we're going to try to watch.
All the novels.
Novels? Well, I don't think we'll get to the novels ever. If we get to the end of the episodes before I die of old age, I think we'll be good. You know, the Widowmaker's coming, so put that
You're younger
clip
than I am, so
in my memorial show.
Yeah, you have a better chance than I do.
Yeah, we'll see. Anybody want to take bets? That could be our first poll on Patreon. Who will die first, Christopher or Albie? I don't know. So
Obsessed.
I want to
Obsessed.
talk about Encounter Farpoint because that's why we're here. But I want to take it back a minute because we're still introducing ourselves to many people, and I want to ask you, Chris, and then I'll talk about me a little bit. But I want to ask you about your history of Star Trek because I've always known you to be a Star Trek fan. But when did you first get into Star Trek, and what is your Star Trek knowledge, and like what's your basic feeling of Star Trek?
Oh, okay. So, I don't know that I remember a time without Star Trek. I was born in 1970, so it has always been a thing as far as, I've been alive. It was on before I was born. So I remember my first memories of it are seeing reruns of it on Channel 11 in New York on like Sunday afternoons when I was a kid. I think my very first memory is what's the episode with the kind of like the Romans and the sun, and it turns out to be the son of God and not worshiping the sun, and it was like, or is it Patterns of Force? Maybe it was Patterns of Force.
You're putting me on the spot. Oh
Yeah,
my
exactly.
goodness.
I'm trying to
Bread,
remember if
bread
it
and
was
circuses
Bread and
is
Circuses. I think it was Bread and Circuses
okay.
was the first one that I remember having seen, and I was not a fan because it wasn't a cartoon, and I was 6 years old. But as I grew older, I began to appreciate the show quite a bit, especially when I started watching it myself in, I guess, my early teens. It was on at midnight in New York, so I would watch it almost every night that I could, and I became a real big fan of it. So I guess TOS was my thing because it was the only thing that was there at the time. And then I became a fan of the books, as you can see, and all the next gen stuff started when I was 17 or thereabouts, and I was not a fan of next gen for a very long time, and it was easy for me to miss it anyway because I was going to college at the time, that it was really in its prime and everybody loved it. I wasn't even watching TV, so it kind of passed me by. And I guess I rejoined my Trek fandom or rediscovered it with Deep Space Nine, and I've been a fan ever since. But my real formative stuff is TOS on reruns and reading the pocketbooks novel series. Is that was where my sweet spot was with my fandom and what really informed my Star Trek fandom. How about you?
Well, I think I was 8 or 9. Don't remember exactly, but I was watching on Channel 11 as well, WPIX New York. I was watching it in New Jersey before I moved down to Florida here. And I remember seeing my first episode was Cat's Paw. It was airing
Oh, I'm
around.
sorry.
No, I enjoyed it when I was a kid. That's a good episode for a kid because it's like spooky and you don't know what's going on. So when at that age you don't know if you're into sci-fi or fantasy or what's the difference. So that's got a little bit of both, and you're like, this is kind of crazy. What's going on here? There's witches, there's cats, there's spaceships. That's like perfect for an 8-year-old kid to get into, and the bright colors. And back then there wasn't that much on. It was like that or 60 Minutes.
Yeah, that did help, I guess, right?
So I picked Star Trek. But I remember being fascinated by that episode and going, wow, this is so cool. And like trying to understand the TV series. And I remember getting the TV guide and getting a yellow highlighter and highlighting every time I see Star Trek in the TV guide and making sure the next time it comes on to sit down in front of the TV and watch it because that's what you had to do back then. And I remember just eating up every single episode and thinking Spock was the coolest person, and I identified with Spock so much. I mean, he was logical. He was all about science, and he was an outsider, and he didn't quite fit in. And I was like, that's me. That's me. And of course, I wanted to be Kirk, with the ladies' man and all that stuff. But I'm more identified with Spock. But I just enjoyed everything about it, the music, the stories. And of course, along the way, I learned, like moral lessons and different things and just how to not be a jerk and be a good person, kind person, and different things. And I learned about humanism, and just what made me what I am, basically. And moving forward, like I remember recording them on VHS. I remember buying them on VHS when they came out. I remember being about 12 years old when I heard about Next Generation coming out. And this was I think 37 years ago, thereabouts, as of this year, 2024, because it was 1987. So I was watching it on a tube TV that was a piece of furniture made out of wood.
Yeah.
Well, this is
We
how
had
long
one of
ago
those
it
as
was.
well. Yeah.
So you were 17, I was 12. That means you got a few years on me. But I was at the perfect age for Next Generation because when you're 12, everything you see, you just fall in love with. and it's made for you, and this is your thing, and it's the best thing ever. And I remember just sitting and watching that and just loving it and saying, well, it's not the original series. It's not what I know and love and have seen many times before, but it feels the same to me. And I remember McCoy being part of it really helped me because it like connected it for me as a kid.
Gotcha.
So I think that was a good step.
And that's a really important distinction to make, because someone who's 12 is much more open and receptive as opposed to someone who's 17 turning 18 who thinks they know it all and is very, I don't want to say that, you're a jerk at that age, but you're kind of a jerk at that age. And also you get so wrapped up in, this is my identity. This is who I've chosen to be. And Star Trek is my thing. This new thing that they're calling Star Trek is an affront to all of that, because I'm almost 18 and I know everything. So it was like I was almost at the exact wrong age for it to premiere. Anyway, that's the way I'll retcon my own nonsense by just owning the fact that I guess at some ages you're a little bit more obstinate.
Yeah, some ages you're obstinate, some ages you're receptive. It just happened to land at the right time for me for both the original series and Next Gen. So I know since then you've been going through Star Trek, right? You started a chronological rewatch not too long ago, so you are familiar with some of the Next Gen, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would say this. I was familiar with some of Next Gen. I watched the first few episodes when it aired, but I just found out I just did not like it. It wasn't for me. And like I said, it wasn't until I didn't say that. I haven't told you this, but I didn't like Next Gen until I saw a movie that nobody likes, which is Generations. I saw Generations and I loved it. And I was like, wow, I really need to give this another chance. I still was kind of lukewarm on Next Gen. I found it very plotting and pedantic a lot of the times. And it was just so stodgy. And I guess I didn't have the grounding in the characters yet, but I decided, it's funny you say it's recently, but it's taken me so long. Over a year ago, I decided to do a chronological rewatch, and it was born from me having COVID. I watched all of Enterprise for the first time straight through, and I was like, this is terrific. I love this. Let me just go on and continue with the universe in chronological order. So, there are even episodes of Enterprise that I've skipped. I still haven't watched the series finale because I want to put it in with the Pegasus episode, and there's, like little things like that. But as a result, I finally got through, Disco, the first two seasons again, and then I got through TOS again, and I started Next Gen. And revisiting Next Gen in many ways for me, like the first time, has been eye-opening. I enjoyed the first two seasons much more than I anticipated, especially with they're sort of maligned, those first two seasons, as sort of the worst of Next Gen. It didn't find its footing yet. You got to wait till season 3, and then season 4 just takes off and goes. I liked a lot of what I saw in seasons 1 and 2. And I'm now currently in the middle of season 4. I think you were here visiting me at the house. We saw the Drumhead, which is where I kind of left off. So
I brought down bigger men than you, Picard. I think I have a line for every episode. That's my line for that episode.
So, I mean, I'm not going to say I've done a complete 180 on Next Gen. There are still things that I find annoying about it, but I have come to appreciate it a lot more. And I think that if we were going to do this podcast, especially if we're going to focus the main stuff on Next Gen, you got me at the exact right time, man.
Awesome. Worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
I think stodgy's a great description of the first two seasons for me. But now, as I'm older and I'm looking back at it more with nostalgia, maybe nostalgialgia makes it seem better to me, because the first two seasons of Next Gen always seemed like a chore to get through, so I could get to the good episodes, the ones where they have the new uniforms and not just the jumpsuits, but they got the Picard maneuver going on, and season 3, 4, and up to 7 is great. But now, like rewatching Enterprise, the first episode of Next Generation, Encounter at Farpoint, I appreciated it so much more as I was watching it to watch it and enjoy it again, and not just watching it to get through it.
Okay.
Because I think I'm with Star Trek, I'm kind of a completist, so I'd hate to start in season 3. I'd rather suffer through the first 2 seasons, even if I wasn't enjoying it, just so I could watch the whole thing as a whole story.
You know what?
So,
I'm gonna disagree with you on that, Albie.
okay.
I think that seasons 1 and 2 of Next Gen are by far some of the less stodgy stuff I've seen from Next Gen. I feel like it got a little stodgier as it went on because it found its groove, and it became a bit more smug as it went on, because it was just like, we're important, we're Star Trek. As the first 2 seasons felt like we're kind of like TOS, but not, and we're trying to do different things. And there are certain things that Picard does in the first few episodes where I'm like, what? And then I think back on it and I say, that was the idea. It was to make you, to go against the convention that you expect, because they're in a more evolved time. And I guess we'll get to that as we get further into these episodes in the first season. But that's some of the stuff that I found that I had a new appreciation for, because I hadn't really given it its due. So the chronological rewatch also forced me to pay more attention, because I was looking for connections. Even though the shows all came out at different times, like Enterprise is the last show, but it's the first one. I love retconning in my head. So I look for things that, even though Enterprise was not even a glimmer in anybody's eye at that time, I think Picard mentions going to Archer 7 or something like that. And it's just like, oh, that's for Jonathan, even though they didn't know Jonathan was a thing then, but just like little things like that. So I'm paying much more attention, both for the in-universe stuff, but again, appreciating the characters more for who they are and who they aren't, based on my memories, my old memories of it.
So that's where we are with Star Trek in our fandom. So what we're going to be doing with this show is, on a mostly weekly basis, of course, real life happens, but on a mostly weekly basis, we're going to be watching an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. It'll be available on YouTube and our Patreon. And we are also going to be doing another episode that week. And let's see, right now, as we're speaking, season 5 of Discovery is about to premiere. So we're going to be covering those episodes as they come out week to week. And I think we have season 5, episode 1 and 2 next week to talk about. And those will be on our Patreon and here on YouTube. And those will be like for everyone. You can check those out. But there'll be other things we're doing, like Enterprise, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, shows like that are be on our Patreon. So you definitely want to check out our Patreon. What is our Patreon, Christopher? What's the web address?
It looks like it's patreon.com/Trexploration. Spelled just like it sounds. Trek Exploration.
Exploration. We made up a word and we're going with it. So that'll be our main point of contact. Send your feedback there. Send your ideas, suggestions. I think you can join for free just to follow us on there.
Yes, Patreon now has that feature. You can join for free,
which is great. And of course, we have different levels. Did you want to read those levels, Chris, or you want to talk about those later? Save it for the end.
You made them up. You read them.
Oh, I don't have a screen in front of me other than your beautiful face. So if
all right, so here we go.
I'm in a space station right now, and I just landed. I don't have any furniture.
Gotcha.
It's just an empty room with a computer.
I have it here. Okay, cool. So the levels we have are Cadet for $5 a month, and that gives you access to 2 members-only video episodes a month, including but not limited to TOS and DS9, the audio podcast feed, exclusive content, your name in video credits, and more. So that's $5 a month, Cadet. The recommended by creator, which is Albert Burge, Lieutenant Commander for $17.01 a month. I see what you did there, $17.01. That includes everything that you get at the Cadet level and more. So I'm not really sure what those go on to Patreon.
Oh, there's other shows that are available too if you read towards the end of that.
Yeah.
Voyager and Enterprise, I think.
Oh, and it says, Voyager and Enterprise.
So that's the difference. You get 4 bonus shows per month. But all the first episodes of each season of each series will be included for free on our YouTube, so you can follow along, and Patreon we'll have extra bonus ones behind Patreon there.
Gotcha. And it says here that we're going to get behind the scenes access. So I don't know. Do I have to start
like our bloopers and
scenes?
getting ready, like we do with the Quantum Leap podcast a lot.
Gotcha. So next version, listen to me. Next tier, $47 a month. You can be a captain, and it's got all of that other stuff from the last 2 tiers. And you will also get a shout out in every show and be invited to be a guest on our Captain's Roundtable show recordings and more. So I guess we're going to be doing Captain's Roundtable recordings.
Yeah.
This is all news to me.
Yeah, wow, you're learning as you go.
This is okay. This is where it gets really ambitious.
These are just, flying in the sky. You never know.
Exactly. We have, you can join us at the Voyager level. I guess Voyager's call letters are 8472.
That's species 8472. That's what the aliens remember.
Ooh, I think we can tell which series I haven't watched a lot of.
Not a lot of Voyager. I live in Voyager.
I know it's going to be interesting when we start covering Voyager together, because I think we're going to have vastly different opinions.
Yes, so that'll be fun. It'll be interesting, and you'll get a producer credit with that one too. I think, right? So
that's for $84.72 a month, and then this one is. Listen, I dare you.
It'll never happen. The last one will never happen.
Badmiral level. The Badmiral level is $1,000 a month. Are you out of your mind? Who made this up?
Well, you got to have one that nobody will ever do.
All right. Got it.
That's the whole idea, to make the other one seem more affordable. That's how that works. It's like it's only it's way too expensive to get that one. So you think you're saving money when you're spending less, when it's still the same amount as you would normally.
Gotcha. Now that $84.72 seems like a bargain, doesn't it, folks?
Exactly. Right.
That $1,000 will get you access to every members only video episode, including but not limited to TOS, DS9, VOY, and ENT, the audio podcast feed, exclusive content, behind the scenes access, your name and video credits, your name and beginning and end credits, an audio shout out in every show. And you will be invited to be a guest on the Captain's Roundtable show recordings. And you'll get an exclusive custom episode of your choosing quarterly, and more, ... That more is Albie will come to your house and wash your car.
Yeah, I'm good at washing cars. I'm good at cooking omelets. Let me know.
Or your cat. He'll wash your cat.
I can wash your cat.
So
that's your Patreon. So
it's all news to me. That's the first time I've seen it.
I just made it up in a half hour tippity typing. While I was doing stuff.
Tippity tap. We'll see. It was divine inspiration, or
do we have any new patrons this week? Do we have any new patrons this week?
So far, it looks to me like you're saying that we do have a first patron.
We have a patron.
It is our old friend of many of our shows, Tom Quinn. Tom, thank you so much for joining us at the $17.01 level. That's the lieutenant commander tier. I'm still getting used to all this, folks. So it's going to be so much better in episode 2. I'm going to be selling.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We're just getting started. This is our pilot. Hopefully it gets picked up. So that's Tom Quinn. I believe he was our first patron, if not one of our first patrons, on the Quantum Leap podcast. So once he heard about this, he immediately signed up, and now he will be referred to as Lieutenant Commander Cosplay Dad.
Yes, there we go. So thank you, Tom, so much for
and Tom,
all of
welcome
your
aboard.
Support. Yes, welcome aboard. We need the bosun's whistle for that, right?
Yeah,
right.
I'll leave that.
The fancy electronic one from the motion picture.
Star Trek 2, 3.
Didn't they have it in the motion picture when Spock came aboard?
Motion picture. Okay, there you go.
TMP.
Yep.
Maybe it was Star. Maybe it had it in both.
Remastered.
Anyway, I can hear it in my head.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get there.
Yeah, I hope so. So, hey, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about Encounter at Farpoint.
Farpoint, yes.
I just finished watching it for the 3rd time in 2 weeks, I think.
I just finished watching it for the 3rd time in my entire life, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, I watched it during its premiere, and then I watched it during my chronological rewatch, and I just watched it 2 hours ago.
Nice. So we have it in our long-term memory and short-term memory, so hopefully we can talk about it. This episode was written by Gene Roddenberry and Dorothy Fontana, and there's quite a famous story about how Dorothy wasn't happy with the rewrites that Gene did just to get his name on there.
You can tell which episode was Dorothy's and which episode was Gene's. Let's just put it that way.
You really can. And so there's a lot about that out there. So And could you give us, for anybody who hasn't seen it yet or hasn't seen it in a while, could you give us a short synopsis of Encounter
Oh,
at
I
Farpoint?
wrote two of them, so I'm going to read them both because I
Okay,
just
sounds great.
I love my own writing. We go back to where it all began for the second time when Gene Roddenberry reinvented Star Trek for a new generation and ushered in what many consider the golden age of Trek. But does this maiden voyage of the next gen crew live up to the legacy it spawned? And now here's an official episode synopsis. Captain Jean-Luc Picard assumes command of the USS Enterprise D, but before he can say engage, the ship is waylaid by the mysterious godlike Q, who is determined to try and convict humanity for its savage past. Q offers one chance at redemption. Solve the mystery of Farpoint Station. Ooh, which sure is convenient since that's where the Enterprise was headed anyway to pick up the rest of its crew. So, and enter the next gen cast. Is that's good enough for a synopsis? I hope.
That's
Right?
great. That's great.
I
That'll
think
remind
everyone.
anybody who is watching us but doesn't quite remember Encounter at Farpoint. I don't know who that might be, but if you're not familiar with the episode names, maybe this will remind you which one we're talking about. How's that?
Talking about that one with the jellyfish. Oop! Did
Yeah,
I spoil it?
jellyfish. Nope. The Nope creatures. I don't know if you saw Nope, but it borrowed heavily from Encounter at Farpoint.
Yes, I did see Nope.
Yeah. Nope.
Nope.
Okay, so this is how we do this. We've done it 100 times, 1,000 times, somewhere in between that, I'm sure. So Chris,
Easily.
Encounter at Farpoint, first impressions.
Wow, what a mixed bag. I think it embodies some of the worst of Trek and lays the groundwork for what would become some very compelling Trek as next gen evolved. I don't know how deeply you want to get into. You want that one line synopsis, and then we'll start the discussion, or
Oh, whatever you
because
feel. Just talk, and I'll
yeah,
listen, and I'll be enamored and in love.
yeah. No, I mean, I think that this. We were talking about that famous story how Dorothy wrote the pilot and then Gene completely rewrote it and added all of the Q stuff,
Mhm.
and you can tell that the Q stuff is Gene's because Gene Roddenberry seemed to have one idea and he hammered it and hammered it and hammered it relentlessly and melodramatically as much as he could. And that was the fact that humanity is savage, but we're evolving. And we all have to be put on trial for our savage pasts. And there are godlike creatures that are testing us and making sure that we're worthy to be out in the stars and blah, 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 blah. How many times do we need to see this freaking story? But then once you get past all of that nonsense, which to me is like when next gen like is at its worst, it's just so self-important. You get into the character stuff and you get into the Farpoint stuff, and that's Dorothy's stuff, and I find that once I can get past, okay, that I have this bad taste in my mouth already, it becomes intriguing. And I think it's especially now because I've watched a lot of next gen and I have much more affinity for the characters. So going back and seeing where it all began and seeing them sort of find their places with one another as a new crew and solve this mystery of Farpoint Station, it's actually kind of intriguing in places. I really enjoy some of that, some of the more mechanical aspects of the episode. So how about you? What are your first impressions?
I love the feeling of the episode. I love the music. I love the story. For me, it's not so clash with the Gene and the Dorothy scripts, just because I'd probably watched it 20 times before I even found out about any of that. So in my brain, it all like meshed together fine. It does seem like, in retrospect, it does seem like two different episodes that are like shuffled together just to
Yeah.
make a 2 hour movie, which is basically what they did. Um, I love Q, so it's nice to get an introduction to Q. One of the things I like about Encounter at Farpoint is like the character introductions. I think that was handled really well, like especially the history between them and like opening up the history between the characters, but also leaving it a mystery, like the Imzadi with Riker and Troy.
That's good. See, some of it was handled well. I'm not sure all of it was handled well, and you mentioned one of the aspects of it that I'm not quite sure yet if that was handled very well. I think that that again, it kind of veered into melodrama a little bit with the voiceover and
Hmm.
like the looks. And I have to say, if there's one character that is poorly served and it sets a precedent for, I think, the rest of the series in this episode, it's Deanna. And I'm going to go on record as saying Deanna was the character I was least interested in when I started the rewatch. And now she's one of the characters I like the most as we're
Hmm.
in like mid season 4. I really actually enjoy Marina's performance as the character. I like when they give her stuff to do, what she does with it. But oh boy, it's a little rough in this
It's so
episode.
difficult to like watch this episode without having the knowledge of the other rest of the 179 episodes or something
Hmm.
that are out there, and Troy's whole story. But I think Peter David's book Imzadi really connected Riker and Troy for me, like their backstory. I like when I watch Encounter at Farpoint, I know about their whole backstory and what happened before they meet again on the Enterprise. So I think
Hmm.
that's why it affects me more. Like pulls the heartstrings because I know what happened to them before. But I like that. I like the Picard and Beverly thing where they have history and there's definitely something going on there. It's more than just like I brought your kid's father's dead body home. There's like something there, and you want to know more about what it is. And
Yeah, there's a just looks between
mhm.
Gates and Patrick that you can tell that just in a glance there's so much going on. And one thing that I didn't realize until this third watch was when Wes comes out of the holodeck and he's all wet.
Mhm.
Uh, he says, "I guess I should clean this up, Captain." Picard's like, "Yeah, that's a good idea," and walks on. He didn't realize that was Wes. He had no idea that that was Jack's son until Beverly brings him to the bridge.
Oh,
It
I
it was
didn't
the
connect
weirdest revel. I was like, wow, that's really pretty, you know, cool because it doesn't cast Picard in the best light.
that. Mhm.
And it's a very interesting character choice because he says it to Will. The first thing he says when he's done testing him, with the whole saucer section thing, and we'll get into that. But
Mhm.
he's like, make sure I don't make an ass of myself, especially with the kids, because I'm not a family man. And the first thing he does is make an ass of himself, sort of, with the kids, because he doesn't recognize his supposed best friend's son. But what Wes probably had to be a baby at that point, or much
Yeah, he
much
was
younger,
rather young.
right? And then for him to come on the bridge, he was standing in the turbo lift, and he's like, "That's Wesley," It's like, huh? And I was like, "Wow, I hadn't caught that the first time I did it with the chronological rewatch." So
Mhm.
again, this is why you go back to these things. It's finding not only new things that you might have missed, but things that were very interesting about the characters when they were first being formed, before they had become staid, before they had become so defined. And it makes it so much more compelling to see them, I think, a bit flawed, a bit more human. They all become a bit homogenous as next gen goes on. And that's why I like, first seasons of stuff. Even though people say you have to get through the first season, I'm guilty of saying that myself with a lot of shows. You got to get through the first season and then it gets fantastic. But I find now I'm liking first seasons more because they're a lot more rough and tumble.
Hmm.
And this had a lot of aspects of that for me.
And one thing I liked about this episode was the thing about how it starts Picard's arc, how he's not a family man and he doesn't want to be around children. I don't know if they thought 36 years later that maybe he would become a family man.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if that was a retcon in the final season of Picard, or if they had that in mind originally for the 7 seasons or something, or maybe Beverly and Will being some Beverly and I said, well, Wesley being like more of a family unit later on in the show. I don't know what they were going for.
I kind of like that because I feel like one of the challenges, especially for a TOS fan with this new iteration of Trek, is just like, why are there families on this ship? This is potentially a ship of war, but we want to make it all about the exploration. And if you're going to be out in space for 10 years exploring the unknown, maybe you want to have your family with you. And that's where I think they wanted to differentiate it from a lot of the feel of TOS, which was much more of a militaristic kind of vibe. It was just the space navy, basically. So that was a way in which it was trying to distinguish itself and say, and I think having Picard doubt it himself is almost like the show winking at the TOS fans saying, yeah, we get it. You don't get it, but this is how it is now. And even the captain's not that comfortable with it, but it's part of this universe. And we're going to maybe explore it in an interesting way by making it one of the captain's weaknesses. And again, that's where I say we kind of lost that. They did play with it a little bit with the Picard day. And we see that Picard is still perennially not great with kids. But it's so marked in this episode. And it's one of the parts about it that I enjoyed, especially when you get to know, that the relationship that he has with Wesley and the way it grows. Mm-hmm. So and the fact that they didn't even recognize him is... Yeah.
Probably a captain sees hundreds of people all the time and doesn't know most of them, I'm guessing. But I think what we're seeing is like a period like post-wars, and like he's still a military man, Picard, but like, it's not like a war zone anymore. It's like not the middle of World War II. It's the suburbs in the 50s where everything's fine again. So I think that's what we're seeing with the Next Generation, where they're just like, they have the neighborhood secured. Everybody's happy. There's nothing bad going on. So bring your family, enjoy it. Have some plants, in the hallway.
Yeah, I don't know if I buy that, because one of the first things that they say, and this is when enter Q, they're at Deneb 4, which is essentially the edge of the frontier. Beyond Deneb 4 is the great unknown, and we're going to go explore that. And aren't we noble? And then Q comes in and says, "You're too savage. Get thee to a court." And man, can we talk about that courtroom scene?
Sure.
What was the production design on that? It was like a bad 80s urban fantasy or something with it was like half Ren Fair, half biker gang. Can we curse? Is this a cursing show?
I would say no, because we could get demonetized. So
I'll say what in the actual fudge is with that. I mean,
I think they were going for like a Blade Runner-esque feeling, and they kind of missed the mark and created their own thing. I always got that feeling.
Okay, I mean, and then
with these what can you do that hasn't been done yet? Just like you said, Ren Fair or something like that. Just I don't know. I always liked the courtroom scene for the one reason of I always had a theory that Star Trek: The Next Generation would end, and the whole series was just a test by Q, and they would end up back in that courtroom in those same positions in that same uniform.
I wonder how that worked out for you.
Yeah, it did not. But I had 6 years to hope for it, but it didn't work.
Yeah, well, come on. I think that why am I blanking on
Picard?
Hello. All good things. All good things.
All good things. That was great.
You really did bring it full circle, right? Don't they go back to the court and all
I think so, yeah. And they brought...
don't say you think so. You know it. You know it by heart. You've seen it 1,000 times.
I have it on Laserdisc right over there. I didn't bring furniture yet, but I now I got to show it, don't I?
Okay. You have it on Laserdisc. You've seen it more on Laserdisc than I've seen it on streaming. So,
okay,
there we go.
All good things.
Boy. So this is where the audience gets introduced to Albie's fetish for outdated media.
Outdated media.
Yes.
The only way to watch All Good Things is on Laserdisc or Blu-ray. This is season 1 on Blu-ray. This is the best way to watch it just because of the special features. Oh my goodness. Even if you don't watch the episodes, the documentaries on these Blu-rays are top notch. Worthy of
I might get into that. Maybe we'll do some document. We'll do some special feature commentary. Maybe we'll put that on the Patreon.
That might be and more.
And more. That's right. See, ... Those that ellipsis it's a vast universe. That ellipsis is exploration in itself. So
I can say I liked. This is probably my favorite viewing of Encounter at Farpoint in a long time. Just because I think I was watching to enjoy and analyzing it and challenging my own, I guess, feelings that I've made up over the years about the older seasons versus the newer seasons versus the whole series.
So, I mean, I came into it with that as an established thing,
Mhm.
right? Because and it was borne out by my own experience because I think I got as far as the Naked Now,
Mhm.
maybe one after, but once the Naked Now was just a ripoff of the Naked Time, I was like, they're not even doing anything new. Why am I wasting my time with this show? And we're two episodes in.
Mhm.
And then I forget what the third episode was, but I didn't get very far into the first season before I bailed at all. But you coming at it from someone who loved it from the beginning and then formed an opinion as you went on and watched the entire series. Like, I know I discussed why I like first and second season stuff a little bit better, but how did your feelings about seasons 1 and 2 change, even though you loved them in the moment, as the series went on for you? Because you're indicating that you you're indicating that you thought that they were somewhat lesser in retrospect.
I think watching them as they aired, and I always recorded them on VHS. I think I did 3 episodes of tape or two, depending on what it was, 120s, 180s, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I would record it while I watched it live, and then I'd rewatch it like 3 or 4 times that week before the next one came out. And then on the off seasons, I would just rewatch the whole season again. And I remember thinking that was the best Star Trek: The Next Generation I'd ever seen at the time. Because that's all we had, and it was basic. It basically had that feeling, like even in Encounter Farpoint. There's a couple shots that look like they could be from the original series, like when they're showing the old Vandy City. I mean, it looks straight out of one of the original series episodes. So it had that feeling of like nostalgic uneasiness. I don't know how else to describe it, but it just had that feeling. And like as it evolved and got to season 3 and 4, I felt that, and it might be just because of my age, and I was going from 12 to 14, and at 14, I was seeing this different, newer, more evolved show, for better or for worse. But in my case, I enjoyed it more. And then I compared the first 2 seasons to the seasons 3 through 7, and there was no comparison in my mind what I liked more. Like
Gotcha.
I wouldn't want to live on Enterprise in season 1, especially not season 2 with no Beverly, but we'll get there. Um, but season 3 to 7, I would live there. I would love that. That would be my universe. So I think there was a definite distinction. And every time I try to sell Next Gen to someone or tell them, I'm like, you got to hold in for the first 2 seasons. I think everybody does that. But what? They're like 26 episodes or something each season, so that's a lot to hold in there for.
Yeah, that's why it's taken me so long to get through the rewatch too. Quite frankly,
well, now you're going to get through it whether you like it or not.
Yeah. I'm going to rewatch my rewatch basically, because now I have to watch the first 3 seasons all over again. But I mean, it's funny again, the mixed bag this is for me, because as this came on and things are going, space, they don't even have like a tease in this. It just opens up with the Enterprise flying on screen, and I just see the D, big as life, flying by, and I'm like, that is the most god awful, ugly ship I have ever seen in my life. It is so terrible looking. And I felt like, you know what? It reminded me of Disco, where they just
How dare you, sir? How dare you, sir?
They over design it just because they had the capability to over design it. Like everything to me in Disco is completely over designed.
Yes.
Because it's all these really ridiculous details that nobody cares about. And it's so distracting. And I feel like the D is kind of a victim of that, because they had this fancy new computer technology and they could make the ship into anything they wanted. They weren't limited by the model technology. So
it was a model.
It was a model?
It was a model.
Really? It looks like the worst CGI creation.
No, it was filmed. It was a model. It's like 6 feet long. You got to watch the bonus features.
Well, then I stand corrected. I'm sorry. See? Again, I'm new to this, so there are people yelling at me saying, "You idiot! Why are we watching you talk about Star Trek? Well, this is why you're watching." If we get
something wrong, contact us, send us feedback, and we'll learn with you. Yeah, I think you've heard this, but I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm all about the D.
Uh, well, yeah. I, I finally have context for that. Thank you.
No, but it was an actual filming model, and that's why the Blu-rays and to a lesser extent the streaming from those same files, the HD scans, looked really good because they were actually filmed models and not like SD special features made for something like say Babylon 5 was.
So
But these were filmed, so they were able to rescan the filmed elements of the models and the different lighting effects and recomposite them now with computers, but using the actual film stock. So that's why
maybe
the
that's
special effects look
why
so
maybe
good.
that's why it looks like way too slick. Because I am watching the remastered ones, obviously the HD
Yeah.
ones, and
But it
I
might
just
be a thing, like you said, about ages being receptive to something or not.
well, I mean, at this age, I'm receptive to pretty much anything. So it's just every time I see that D come on screen, I'm like, "Phew, that was
Really?
misguided. Yeah,
So
and
you
you know,
probably love that line in Picard where they were talking about the
oh,
model
yeah,
and they said the
yeah,
fat one.
the fat one, yeah,
And
yeah,
my
pretty
writer was
much.
like, the fat one.
Yes,
No, it's my favorite ship. Probably my favorite, the D.
even more favorite than Voyager, huh?
Voyager's a number two, followed
Okay.
by the NX-01, then probably the original. I was never a Defiant fan.
No, huh? How about the F or E rather? The E. I love the E.
Too militaristic for me. To me, Star Trek isn't about fighting in militaries and pew pews. It's more about
It's
human
just a beautiful
interactions and
ship, though.
relationships.
Oh, you're wrong. You're just wrong.
I was in love with the D. I'm all about the
No.
D. I am
All right.
all about the D.
Okay. Okay. Again, we're gonna lose our family rating. Let's move on. Let's get off the D. Well,
We're
I
going to be
gotta.
on it for a
So
while.
I want to ask you, as
Yeah.
someone who lives in this universe and breathes
Mhm.
these characters,
Mhm.
what is your most striking rediscovery? I'll say this: what is the most jarring thing about which character? Like, if you want to go character by character,
That'd be great.
you have an idea of who these people are in your
Mhm.
head. I mentioned one with Picard sort of being a little bit more gruff, a little bit more, kind of an asshole, which is so completely opposed to the Picard that he becomes. He becomes, like really just this statesman and this poet. And in this one, he's just at odds with himself. So I loved seeing that contradiction, I guess. But what character seems to you to be the most different in this, in a way that you find jarring?
Interesting. Picard, I think, see, it's hard because I retcon all these things in my head to make it all work. So, like, I feel like Picard in the first season is kind of like just coming off some kind of major life crisis hurt thing that he's dealing with. And that's why he's so gruff like that. And he's not the Picard we know. Of course, obviously, it's just the character hasn't been developed as much yet. So, that's what he's doing with it. But to me, he just came from something. So, like the Stargazer, he lost his ship and there was a battle at Maxia and all these things. And he's dealing with a lot of things and he's like over it, but he still has to keep going. And he hasn't really wanted to be a grape farmer yet. So, he, he's still a starship captain. So he's like, yeah, I'll do it. But he's over everything. I feel like at this point in his life, kind of like when we meet Cisco after what happened to him. So it works in my head, but I can see the difference. But I can't think of a character they're just undeveloped characters. Like they're people we just met and we have first impressions of them, and the first impressions are wrong. But I think they're the characters that they end up being.
Okay.
So
I
no.
Well, how about, I mean, Brent's take on Data becomes a lot more subtle as it goes on. And this one, he's sometimes scary. He's like, it's that uncanny valley thing. It's like he's not human. And the more he tries to affect human behavior, the less human he seems, the more off-putting he gets. There's a scene when he has Wes up in the air in the holodeck and he smiles at him, and it's the most evil, disquieting smile I've ever seen from any actor,
For someone that went all through Starfleet Academy to get his position on the Enterprise and do all that stuff, to not have evolved as much as he did in the 7 seasons of Next Gen, it's weird because it's like we're seeing him at the beginning, like they just turned him on now, but he has some years behind him. But yeah, that is strange. I'm going to keep an eye out for that.
Well, I mean, it's hard to miss. Also, the makeup's a bit different, so he's a bit more washed out. He's his eyes seem to be even more yellow than I think they toned down the eyes a little bit. They put a little bit more gold tone in his skin, so they soften his look a bit. But he's got a very stark look in this, which again I find it fascinating because you don't notice it until you've seen, and then you can watch a season 4 ep and then go right back to season 1. Like I didn't notice it that much when I was doing my rewatch because I hadn't seen the Next Gen characters in a little while. And it seemed like organic. It's kind of like when you watch the first episode in the production order of TOS and you see how everything is so different. Spock's look, the uniforms. That's one of the things I love about watching TOS in production order because you get to see that evolution on screen. I like to watch that with this as well. Do you know if the production order for these, did they air in the order that they were produced? I know Encounter Farpoint obviously had to be number 1.
Except for Unification 1 and Unification 2. They filmed those out of order because of Leonard Nimoy's availability.
Okay, but so it's not like TOS when episode 6 was the premiere. You know, because I think the Man Trap was the 6th one that they filmed.
Yeah, and it is weird when you watch it in air date order because the looks switch back and forth.
Yeah, it goes.
So I always watch them in production order.
Yeah. I think it works much better that way. So I had never heard anything like that for Next Gen, but I know a lot of times they do just because one episode's finished, one's not. There are complications, whatever. But I guess I don't want to say they ran a tight ship because I've heard the horror stories about how they had over a year to get all their scripts together and they waited till the last minute anyway. So
Nightmare on the Bridge.
Chaos on the Bridge.
The only reason I knew about the production order, besides reading the compendium, and things like that, and Nitpicker's Guide to the Next Generation. When I was recording them while I was watching them as they aired, I would always write down the production number. And I remember it like skipped one and then it was backwards and I was like, what's going on? But then I later found out why. So okay. All right. But Leonard Nimoy's availability. Spoilers, Spock's going to be on Next Gen. Have you seen that episode?
I think I've seen it, yeah. And it's funny because McCoy shows up on this episode. Hi, McCoy.
I love that. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about McCoy.
Migo McCoy.
There you go.
Can't seem to point right there. There, I figured it out. So, I watched that scene like 2 or 3 times. There are certain things that D does that it's just classic D. I think I really felt like it was McCoy for the first time when he gave a hard look at Data and looked at his ear specifically. But a lot of that with that boy.
I knew it. I knew it. You're about the D too, just a different D than me.
T. Kelly. But I just don't know why his take on that was so like Southern and weird. I know McCoy got Southern sometimes, but
mostly when he was drunk.
We saw there. Yeah, exactly. When he was having a Georgia mint julep.
But I have a theory.
What's your theory?
The Admiral's been inactive for a while. He's back home down south, wherever he's living. And he just he's more saturated in it, so he picked up the accent more.
Okay, and calling everybody, hey boy.
When you're that age, you can act like you want. You know,
I guess I don't know. It struck me as jarring because that is so. What this episode aired in '87. When was the last TOS film? Wasn't that in '89? Right, because the last movie. Like, what movie was the most current one that aired?
No, I want to. Oh, then
when this was, that's what I'm trying to.
I want to say four had come out already because they had dedicated that to the Challenger, and then like 5 and 6 I think came out while Next Gen was on the air, because 6 had Michael Dorn in it as Worf's grandfather.
Right, that's true. Yeah. So
And then, of course,
they were
Generations
concurrent,
combined
is
the
what I'm
cast.
saying. So his take on McCoy in 4 is so good.
Hmm.
Like I love Dee's performance in 4. And to contrast it with what we saw in this, it might be another reason why I couldn't stand the episode the first time I saw it. I'm like, and I noticed tonight, another thing that I noticed for the first time, they never say his name. He's just Admiral. They never
Mhm.
say Dr. McCoy. They just say an admiral checking out the medical facilities. Why would you not at least name drop it? Say, Admiral McCoy or whatever. It's just, who are they winking at? Like, why are they hedging on that? And I remember reading a story. I think it was, I don't know who it was, but they were writing the Sarek episode, and they had to fight to say the word Spock.
Mhm.
So I understand if you want to be your own thing, but if that's the case, why bring on a legacy character and never name him? Why have it there, but then say, no, we're not going to do it? Why say you're going to be a continuation of this universe and then try to get as far away from this universe as you possibly can just to stake your own claim? And I guess I can see why they wanted to maybe make, like I said, a more evolved version of TOS, but they didn't want to have TOS as a crutch, right? They didn't want to have to rely on it for their viewership. They wanted to stake their own claim. And all right, but then why have McCoy on and a very bad version of McCoy just to alienate the TOS fans?
That McCoy is endearing to me. The old Southern gentleman, Mark Twain, but the Forrest Kelly version.
He seems like a giant pain in the ass. He doesn't seem like an old Southern gentleman at all.
Well,
He's not
he always had
genteel in any
that.
way.
He always had that back and forth with Spock, and he was trying to do that with Data. So I think that was a wink to the audience of like, maybe if you like Spock, here's Data, kind of thing. So it was more than one kind of handoff from the series to another, but also characters maybe. And I agree. Why didn't they say it? At first, I thought it was like the Nick Locarno, Tom Paris thing with the writer credit, but didn't Gene Roddenberry come up with both?
I
So
believe so. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. I
I
don't
can't
know what the
imagine.
reason behind that is.
Yeah. Well, it is
But
what
if
it
you,
is. It's
I think there's an action figure of him. Playmates made one, and I think it's got his name on it. So who knows?
okay, but it's the old
Yep.
McCoy. It's
Yeah.
D in makeup. Gotcha.
Yep. The real McCoy.
Gotcha. So I think that I see what you did there, but I'm just going to go right over it. Another thing that I noticed in this watch is that they just do it.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, you're gonna have to bleep that, but there is no conceivable reason why they need to separate the saucer section in this. It's actually the dumbest thing you might be able to do. You have an all-knowing entity coming after the ship. So let's leave all the families in the more vulnerable part of the ship while we go back and try to fight this thing.
Mhm.
This is a godlike entity. It could be anywhere at any time. Why is it chasing them in some kind of silver ball? Like pinball
Just
wizard.
messing with them, like batting them around like a ball of string and a cat does, I think, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
the Next Generation crew didn't know his powers at the time, and it was definitely like the motion picture 10 minutes around the outside of the ship showing off the ship model.
Yeah,
Getting
but
people excited for the ship.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking people are going to give me crap because I love that whole 10-minute, montage circling the Enterprise in TMP, and it had that feeling, but it didn't have the majesty. It was just like, look what we can do. We can separate the saucer section.
I think it was going to be more of a huge plot point. They planned on it than it ever was. I think it happened maybe 2 more times.
Maybe, yeah, I'm not even sure.
Generations and somewhere else, but I can't remember.
What I liked about
maybe
Generations,
Worlds or something.
I don't recall. Honestly, I don't
Something.
recall. Maybe,
Let us
maybe it was
know.
Best of Both
Comment
Worlds.
below.
Yeah, exactly. Let us know. We're going to do a lot of this on this show.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It happened at some point.
Yeah,
I liked in
times.
Generations, though, when they separated the saucer section, it looked like they had some explosive bolts and things like that. So when it separated, it really separated. In this, it's just like it like slots in and slots out, which is, I guess, more apropos if you're going to, have it separate then come back. Whereas it seemed like in Generations when they separated it, it was like a measure of last resort.
Mhm.
It doesn't look like you could reattach it very easily from the way it separates. So also it looks more dramatic for a movie, I guess.
I think that's
than-
why they
than
did it,
it's-
because they had more time and
yeah.
money.
Yeah, pretty much. But for all of that, a lot of pomp, a lot of look at what this new show is about. We can
Mhm.
separate. We can do this. You never saw that in the original series. And one of the most intriguing aspects of this was Picard surrendering, and that is something you'd never see Kirk do. And we surrender, no conditions. And that's when I was just like, what the hell is he doing? Why? And then upon retrospect, I said, duh, this is what Gene is trying to establish here.
Mhm.
It's not about the fight. It's not about who wins. It's about keeping everybody safe. It's about circumventing violence and finding another solution to a situation. There's no ego here when lives are at stake. And that to me was the most marked difference, and something that I've come to appreciate more and more, especially in the first 2 seasons. Like I said, there are certain things that Picard does in these first few episodes where it's so counterintuitive. And that was the first taste of it to me. So I really, I enjoy that part of it a lot more now. I think as a kid, I would have been like, what captain surrenders in the first episode? This is dumb. Click.
It was different. When I was a kid, I wanted to be Kirk because I wanted to get the girl. I wanted to be the cowboy. I wanted to be in the fist fight. But when you're an adult and you're more logical, and like you said, when lives are at stake, things like that don't matter. All that matters is saving as many people as you can and doing the right thing and trying to talk it out. So I try to lead my life more as a Picard than a Kirk or any other captain, really. I think a Picard, yeah. He's a good role model for me for my life. So I don't care if I'm embarrassed. I don't care if somebody disrespects me. I don't care about the situation. Take my wallet. Here you go. Have a nice day. Let me know if you need more. Most of the things in life don't matter. Friends matter. Family matters.
Yeah, I think as I get older, I get more irritated by stuff. So I used to let stuff roll right off my back.
Wait till you get to season 9 of DS9 and you're like, reboot.
Right.
All right. So what else is on our show sheet? Did you go through all your notes?
Yeah, I one of the few things, like just a little thing, like Ferengi eat people apparently. That's what they say. It's a Groppler Zorn. Groppler.
Yeah, I think there's some commentary or something I heard somewhere where they just said he was just lying to them lying to Groppler Zorn to make him.
Oh, okay. I think it's more interesting in Ferengi people.
I don't think they do. I think they're mostly like they're like gatherers. They hear, not gatherers. Would it be gatherers for grubs and stuff like that? They
foragers. They forage.
Foragers. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I don't think they eat people. That's later on in a couple episodes in a different series.
Everything okay?
Yeah, just somebody docking.
Okay, well, you're in the Borg cube, so they probably just assimilated somebody.
Yeah, no, it's friendly. It's a delivery from Amazon, Deep Space.
Gotcha.
It's an automatic shipment.
Bezos is everywhere, man.
Everywhere, man.
So I mean, we haven't really talked about the episode itself. We just saw impressions of the characters and things.
That's true.
I'm trying to figure out, do we need to? Because everybody's seen it. I mean,
it's weird. It's instead of more of a beat by beat for at least this episode, it's more of a overall feeling for me.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because it's all introductions. Is there anything about the episode that bumped you, or you're like, Oh, yeah,
lots. I mean, every scene with Marina.
Every scene with Marina?
Every scene with Marina is just torturous, and I feel so bad for her. It takes me out every time. I think they spent way too much time on the holodeck, just again to show off, hey, look what we can do with the holodeck, And something we've never seen, I think, since is finding the back wall of the holodeck when Data picks up the rock and throws it and it bounces off. So they never explain how the holodeck works, except for the fact that it's based somewhat on transporter technology. And I guess maybe I wasn't listening close enough the first rewatch, but they're saying, in a sense, much of this is real because it's using transporter technology to create the environment that we're in. And here I'm thinking it's just like hard light, but they're saying, no, it's actually matter, just, structured as trees in this program, and it'll go back into the replicator or whatever, and they'll structure it as Dixon Hill in the next program.
Did I hear a Red Dwarf reference, Hard Light, or is that from
I always say that when I'm thinking of Matt made fun of me a bit about that, I think, because I said Hard Light holograms, and he's just like, that's Red Dwarf. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry.
Hard Light, Soft Light. We know all about Red Dwarf. You gotta be a nerd kid and get the technical manual like I did and read how everything works. A lot of it is transporter technology. Sometimes its stuff is replicated, but most times it's just temporary matter that once it leaves the holodeck, it disintegrates. I think to show the back wall was just to show us how the technology worked, like an example, because we had no virtual reality frame of reference back then, unless you watch that one episode of the animated series where they had a holodeck. But also Data's abilities to see more and know more than the average human because he's a robot.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a prologue. They gotta tee things up for you to tell stories later. So it's all about introducing you to like everything, and not just people, but the walls and the technology of the time. Not just for people like me or you that had watched the original series before, but people that are just checking Star Trek out for the first time.
Yeah, true. And just one more thing that I don't know that it bumped me, but I found it interesting is that Geordi can see on a microscopic level with the visor, and he can see better than Data. And you think that Data with his robot vision would have, more facility for seeing in different spectrums, but Geordi wins. And we do explore that a bit.
I think Data heard that and he just like popped out his eyes and put in better ones after that.
Right. So. But yeah, Geordi's saying I'm looking at it on every spectrum, microscopic, this, that, the other thing, and it's just like, wow, you can see microscopically, huh?
Yeah, and I think it's Heart of Glory, where you see like a POV of what. Geordi
that's what I was thinking about, like how he perceives the world, and that was pretty neat. And the fact that the visor gives him pain, I don't know if they ever explored that again, to my recollection.
No, I don't think so. I know he's okay once he had the cloned implants in Future Imperfect, which didn't happen, and then he had the bionic eyes in what was it, First Contact?
Yeah, but then they screwed it up sort of in Insurrection when he gets,
regular
his eyes revert back. He gets regular eyes, but he was born blind, so. What did his eyes revert to? Where did those come from?
I'm sure we'll get there, but it's probably like I'm LeVar Burton. If I sign on to this movie, I'm not going to wear the contacts. I'm not going to wear the banana comb on my face. just write a couple lines to make it okay.
Yeah.
Right. I know how. Well, Insurrection, because it made him young again, right?
Yeah, but he was born blind.
But he
says I was born this way.
It fixes things. So maybe it didn't evolve from his DNA originally. Maybe it didn't grow from his DNA originally correctly. So maybe there was a flaw in the initial growing of the cells. But then
I'm saying
it went back to his DNA to.
No, this is temporal Cold War shenanigans going on here. That's my take on it.
Love temporal Cold War. Finish it. Damn it, finish it.
I think they did
in the books, right?
No, I think they did on Enterprise. I think that they wrapped up the temporal Cold War before season 4. I think they finally.
Don't get me started on the Zindiak. Not right now.
I like the Zindiak. What?
Oh, we got.
You don't like the Zindiak?
We got stuff to talk about.
I like. Hey, Zindi. Good stuff, Zindi.
Zindi Brady. That was my favorite Zindi.
Zindi Brady. She sells seashells by the seashore.
Things that bumped me about the episode.
Yeah. What bumped you?
Printout. That was weird.
Yeah.
Probably Riker watching previously on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
And again, you can see this is where they're mashing these two scripts together like Titanic colliding with an iceberg. It's just nonsense. It's like he really comes on and watches the episode we just watched. It's what?
And you're like, what? But that makes sense because I guess they previously on for when they split it into two for airing in syndication. So like if you weren't caught up, that helped you catch up. But
maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The other thing that bumped me was they made like one of the flying saucer alien squids pink and one of them blue, just to like have that instinct that they're a couple, and like one might be male, one might be female. Who knows which color is which?
That's
But I was
universal.
Like, that's weird.
You didn't know that those colors are no. It's just it's the shorthand of the universe. Yeah. How do you think we got it?
Oh, it used to be reversed for humans until I think the 1900s, early 1900s.
But we've evolved. That's what Star Trek's all about.
It's evolution. Yeah. But, this is a pilot episode of something. And, they had the deal to do the whole season, I think, originally. So, they were
they had already sold it into first run syndication, and they were already making money before it was even premiered. So,
yeah. But as pilots go, I think this is one of the better pilots in television. I mean, it sets out to introduce you to the universe, the technology, the time, and the feeling and tone and the characters. And I think for the most part, it gets it all right.
Oh, yeah. You know what bumped me?
What?
Q is essentially Captain Cold in this. That's his go-to for both whoever was on the bridge, unnamed crewman number 1. And then he does the same exact thing to Tasha.
Lieutenant Torres.
Okay.
Torres. Not related to B'Elanna, we find out later.
Oh.
I think.
Okay, that's good.
But
then he won't, she won't miss him, he won't miss her. It's
fine. The couple things, I know the stunt person for Denise Crosby is a dude. So that kind of looks weird in high def.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah, when you watch it again, you won't unsee it, I think.
Now I can't unsee it. You've ruined it for me, sir.
I've ruined the whole thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was happy. The timing was suspicious. It was very TV timing, but we get to the end of the episode, and Q is back on the bridge, and Picard is just like, "Please do whatever you can to save my people." And then they appear on the bridge, and I'm thinking, did we need the Q ex machina? But it turns out they are very quick to say it wasn't him. It was the entity, the pink one, sent us back. And so don't honor any agreement that you've made with this guy, because it wasn't him that rescued us. It was actually the creature that we're trying to help. And I'm wondering how the creature knew that their intentions were good, especially when they come in and they rescue Zorn, who's been torturing this one's mate. So
I think,
was there a mental connection? Was it Deanna that was being...
I think that was the main reason for Deanna having the powers.
Okay.
So there was a connection. So because she could feel the entity and the entity could feel her. So I think that communicated to her.
I guess that's what's confuses, because I know Deanna can read people, but and I guess we saw her project in this one because she's talking to Will telepathically. You don't see that later. You only see her talking to Laxwana telepathically.
Her telepathy and empathy, depending on the situation needed and the person.
Right. So
in Imzadi, they talk about how she trained Will to be able to read her mind. And I think that's a line in this episode as well. But it's because like she was or he was her first. So there was like a deeper connection there that they bonded of sorts.
All right.
So that they have that, and of course the mother-daughter connection.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, listen, if Garth of Izar can figure out how to shapeshift, I'm sure Will can figure out how to read a mind. I don't know.
Exactly.
Or at least receive thoughts telepathically.
And who knows? That just might be her inner monologue, and he's just probably like, "Why is she looking at me?"
Yeah, exactly. It's like Margot Kidder in Superman. Can you read my mind?
Yeah. Before we go to our final thoughts and our ratings for this episode, we got some other things on there. What are they? What are those questions?
You wrote, so you have to tell me what you mean by this.
Okay.
Episode crush? Question mark? What is?
Did you have a crush in this episode? See, I think my crush in this episode will be different, because I have a crush usually in every episode, if not an overarching crush.
I don't usually think like that. If I have a crush, it's for the entire series. Like,
okay,
I don't know that I have a crush. Don't get me started on Linda Park, though. You know what I mean? Because I won't stop. There. Yeah, exactly. Now let's see. My crush in this episode is William T. Riker.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Before the beard. I like
Yeah.
that. Mine would be, which is weird for me because I think overall the whole next gen would be Beverly, because oh my God, Beverly. I got a story about me and her, but I'll save that for another time. That's an and more. But in this episode, I think because I connected so well with the book Imzadi and to a lesser extent Imzadi 2, I think Deanna Troy in this episode.
I got to be honest with you. I have a hard time crushing, and I think they're both, wonderful actors and beautiful women. I have a hard time crushing on either Beverly or Deanna in the first season because of the terrible, terrible hairdos. I just can't get over it. I mean, Gates McFadden is a striking woman. She is absolutely gorgeous. Marina Sirtis is just, she's arresting, but they just have such terrible hair in these. I can't get past it. I can't get past the dumb bangs that look like they're not cut right. I can't get past the frizz that looks like she just stepped out of a sauna. It's like
I didn't mind Marina's hair in this. They're both wigs, I think. Or this one might be actually Gates' real hair. But yeah, Gates bangs in this did not do it for me. So
no, so
the scant Marina was wearing did. So that's why
I noticed that
Marina.
And I think this might be the only time we ever see this, as the last scene. Yara's back behind the horseshoe and she's wearing a scant, and I don't know that we've ever seen her in a scant.
I think that was the only time. We see her a little bit less in the next episode, so make sure you watch that. But I was not crushing on her in this episode. You see also a male officer wearing the scant.
Yeah, I like that the scants are unisex.
Yeah, which is
I think
awesome.
we've seen several.
I need
male
one, but they don't make it in my size, I don't think.
I don't have the legs for it.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I think you do. You definitely got the calves. Oh my goodness, wait up, Chris. Wait up, Chris.
That's an inside joke.
And then we don't see men in scants again until I think Disco. So
yeah,
somewhere in there.
Yeah,
in the modern Trek anyway. Maybe it's Strange New Worlds. I'm not sure. I'm sure we'll get there. But what else do I have written there?
Oh, okay. Favorite part of the episode?
Yeah, overall, what's your favorite part?
The end, and that'll go with my final thoughts. But I enjoyed the resolution.
Okay.
How about you? What's your favorite part?
Mine would be the music and cinematography combined to make it more like art, like say like a 2001 would be, but totally different, but in that same vein, to where watching it and experiencing it has a feeling to it that's not necessarily along with the story. Like it doesn't clash with it, but I appreciate it more, if that makes sense.
I maybe what I think you're saying, if I'm reading you right, is that it seems to have a much more cinematic scope.
Yes.
And I feel like I noticed that right off the bat. It was maybe just because the opening credits, first you have the flyby of the ship and
the D, which I love.
Right. And then when they go to the credits, but I think it's after the opening credits, but when they're doing the who's on the show, whatever, they have that moving star field that is so reminiscent of like Wrath of Khan and the open of Wrath of Khan. So that's why it seemed like I was watching a movie rather than the premiere of a TV show, at least in the beginning. And just they were trying to give it a very impressive scope. And sometimes it's at odds with
Under the Enterprise and how it's like, which you don't see very often in the series.
And it was neat to see an Excelsior class in there too. The hood was an Excelsior, so and maybe because that's the model they had from actually
the movies, probably 3.
Yeah, because the Excelsior was from Search for Spock. So yeah.
So are you a ship guy? I know the answer to this, but I'm asking for our audience.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a selective ship guy. I'm not a ship wonk. I can't tell you what every class is, but I do have ships that I really like. So I like the Reliant, even though it's toast. I like the original E. It's behind me somewhere. I love the NX-01. And I think the Defiant's pretty cool. How about you? Are you a ship guy?
Not as much, because like I love the look of the Enterprise D, but again, I'm more about characters. It's kind of like if you're watching Ally McBeal, like you're not interested in the building they're in, you're interested in the characters, and that's me. So people like having models of the ships. Although I am about the D, I love the D.
Yeah, God Almighty.
Okay. But like other than the ones that I really love, and it's more about being on them and like pretending that I'm in them and living on them, like Enterprise D or Voyager. Like I'm not a like those video games of Star Trek where it's just like about the starships and the settings in the starships and starships fighting starships. Boring as heck to me. I want character interaction. I want stories.
And I feel like the look of the starships is one of the most iconic touchstones of the entire franchise, with the dual nacelles and the saucers. It's all variations on a theme, but it all serves to, I think, unify the universe. And when you see a Federation ship, you know it's a Federation ship. I like that. And I like the fact that as the series went on, they differentiate the types of ships. So a Ferengi ship doesn't look like a Federation ship, where a Klingon ship, because it has the dual nacelles, is a little bit more derivative. Same thing with the bird of prey, the Romulan bird of prey, when we see it in Balance of Terror. Again, you have the two nacelles. So I like, as the series went on, they made the Vulcan ships look a little bit different than the Federation ships. They made the Ferengi ships look vastly different. And they even tried to change the Romulan warbirds to look, much more avian and not like a Federation ship at all. So
if I have an opportunity to buy a Starfleet vessel or an alien ship, I buy it. I have it. But
yeah, I'm not, as you can probably tell, I'm not that big of a collector's guy. So I've bought all the ships I'm going to buy. I have the NX-01, I have the original Enterprise, and you can see the Defiant up over here. Those are the three that I was interested in, and those are the three that I got. So I don't know, now that Elamos or Hero Ships or whatever they called themselves before they went out of business is out of business. If there's a new ship that comes along that I like, they're probably not going to be like a model of these caliber, So I think.
That brings us to our Trek and Tell. I was gonna it's like
wait. There's one more thing on the rundown. I know we're going along. Yeah,
okay.
You wrote, and you have to explain this to me.
Okay.
The 47? Question mark?
Was there a 47 in this episode? Star Trek The Next Generation is famous, along with a lot of other shows like maybe Battlestar Galactica, the new iteration, because it was Ronald D. Moore. But 47 is always hidden somewhere in Star Trek The Next Generation.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't notice it in this one, so it might not have been in this one. If you noticed it, put it down below. I know there's a super edit on YouTube with 47, and it just goes through every 47 ever on Next Generation. And it's just one after another. And once you're looking for it, you can't not see it.
Okay. All right.
So I don't remember.
I don't recall seeing it in this one.
So maybe it comes up in the later seasons. I'm not sure. So always be on the lookout. And if you notice it or I notice it, we'll say it.
Okay. You got it. Well, that's how we'll start the episode. And the 47 was at 2036.
2036.
So, yeah. And the last thing before the Trek and Tell is you wrote just the words trivia question. Do you have a trivia question?
Oh, yeah. I wanted to know, did you want to do that part of the show? Like we just pull a question out of a Star Trek trivia thing and then...
yeah, let's do it.
We see.
Do you have a Star Trek trivia thing?
I do. And watch this. This is actually my Trek and Tell for this episode. It was going to be the D. I already referenced the D.
Oh my God, you with the D. I promise our viewers that this is the first and last time we're going to beat that D.
Yes, we won't beat the D on, off, anything like that. It'll just be this episode. We might talk about the D more because, the whole series takes place on the D.
It's kind of one and done.
So let me grab the trivia.
So I don't trust you, though. And I'll tell the audience why I don't trust you. You have all these collectibles, and you've been reading them since you were a little kid.
But here we go. And look at this.
But just
sealed.
Because it's sealed, that's bullshit. I know that you have 3 open ones back somewhere in your attic.
I do not.
You're a liar.
I don't lie. If you're lying, you're not playing. If you're cheating, you're not playing.
All right. So I want to know.
This is my Trek and Tell. It was a lovely gift. I got it probably 10 years ago. I never opened it because you have to have friends to play it, and I have to travel to other states or countries to see my friends. So,
gotcha. Maybe that could be a Patreon thing. If you're a bad world, we'll play Seen It Star Trek with you.
Yeah, totally. All kinds of stuff. There's also I do know some Star Trek trivia from Star Trek: The Trivia Game, hosted by Q. It's a PC game That's one we haven't played yet. If you want to check out links below, or on our Patreon, there'll be links to Chris and I played Star Trek Borg, the PC game, and Star Trek Klingon, the PC game. Those are fun nights.
Wow, I hope that you edited the one when we couldn't get that one through that one part. Remember, we were on for an hour trying to
Are
get
you
through
saying
that
you
one
didn't watch
scene
it?
with the phaser.
No, of course I didn't edit it. That's the best part of us just stuck on one part for an hour. I'm actually opening this. It's not mid-inbox anymore.
No, you are just destroying its collectible value.
But it's for the show. It's for the
humanity.
Show.
Oh, the secular humanity.
Hopefully this wasn't the last one. Now, I'm assuming they have like trivia cards in this, like Trivia Pursuit. I don't know.
I don't know. It's got a CD, so maybe not.
It does. DVD. This is 2000s, man. Technology.
Sorry. Whoa, hey.
That'd be funny. A CD. Track 47. Beep. I am not a merry man. What episode is that from?
That's the Dumb Robin Hood episode that I just watched with Vash, as Picard would like to say. That's a Q episode too.
Yep, I love Q episodes.
It's Stupid Cupid.
All right, now so hopefully they have trivia questions. This looks like the trivia questions. I'm gonna guess.
Okay.
And each deck is wrapped.
And I'm wrapped. I'm wrapped. I'm hanging on your every word.
I'll need my glasses for this. Yeah, these look like question cards. Seen it. I don't know what the difference is in these two, but I'm just going to pick one at random and not look at the answer. And I'll have you answer and have me answer. Then I'll flip over the card.
Okay.
So, and then play along at home.
Is this for all of Trek, or is it just like
TOS? It looks like it's the original and Golden Era because it's that age it came out. So it has up to Enterprise, it looks like. I don't know if it includes movies. Might be one of those things where it was CBS approved or Paramount approved, but not the other way around. All right. So I'm just going to pick one at random, not look, and ask a question. Okay, those are the answers. So I'm going to flip that over and do that again.
Flip it over.
Okay, and we have 3 questions on each card. I've never played this game. I'll ask the first one. Okay, we should both know this, so we'll see. In the motion picture, The Voyage Home, what does the former Enterprise crew name their captured bird of prey?
I'm conflating it with Khan's ship, so
yeah, I did that at first too. I was like, Botany Bay. No, it's not.
Botany I was thinking Botany Bay. It's not Botany Bay, and
no, it's something similar to that.
Yeah,
to do with Australian prisoners, right?
I think it's like to do with the Mr. Christian, HMS Bounty.
HMS Bounty, is that what you're going with?
That's what I'm going with.
I couldn't remember, so that's my honest answer. But I think it's in the commentary somewhere, so I'm going to cover the answers to the other ones and look. You're right, HMS Bounty. That is correct. We'll do 3. We'll do the whole card, okay?
Okay, you got it.
How does the Voyager manage to reach Earth in the final Voyager episode Endgame? Ooh, that's a spoiler. I don't think we should answer that.
I think I know.
I think I know too, so let's just go to the next one.
All right. I'm probably wrong, but I think I know.
Okay. Well,
are we worried about spoilers?
Huh?
Are we worried about spoilers?
Well, Serenity's here, so she's in the Voyager and hasn't seen the end yet.
Oh, well, all right.
Yeah. So
gotcha.
Who appeared? This is the third question on the card. Who appeared as himself to play poker with Lieutenant Commander Data, Sir Isaac Newton, and Albert Einstein in the Next Generation episode Descent Part 1? Who played himself?
I think that is Stephen Hawking.
Ding, ding, ding. Very good.
Yeah, there we go. And let me see. I can't really because it's a little blurry. I want to say it was TWC that got Voyager home.
Very good. Very good. I would agree with you.
Okay.
If it in fact did get home and depending on what reality you're in.
That's that was true. I mean, trivia game temporal Cold War shenanigans.
Yes. So, and timey-wimey, and you never know. And it depends what book you read. All right.
I guess
so. That brings us to what's next, Chris?
We have some feedback. Did you want to do
feedback? We have feedback. This is where we would read our feedback. But this is the first episode.
our cute name for it. Well, you put like 3 feedbacks here.
Oh, we have feedback. That's great. See, I'm
Yeah.
reacting to you, Chris.
Oh, okay.
I'm doing a yes and.
Wow.
Yes, and we have feedback on our first episode. That's pretty cool. How is that possible?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't either.
But what are we calling that? Subspace communications or something?
That's what you wrote. Yes.
Subspace, is it communications or communique or what is it called?
You have subspace communications, but we can change it every episode if you want.
Okay, well, let us know what you like, and we'll change it accordingly. So we have some messages in from Subspace. Could you read those, Chris, since you have the...
Sure. Our first one comes from our first Patreon supporter. That's patreon.com/Trexploration. Trexplorations, is that what we're calling this? Trexploration. Not an S.
Trexploration. There's no S.
Trexploration, right. We're still learning the name of our own show.
Yeah. Trexploration, exploring the Star Trek universe one episode at a time.
Oh, there we go. It comes from Lieutenant Commander Cosplay Dad, also known as Tom Quinn, our good friend and perennial supporter. As a longtime fan of the QLP, that's the Quantum Leap podcast for people not in the know, I'm very excited to start listening to two of my favorite creators discuss my first fandom, Star Trek. I will often tell people my morality was based on Gene Roddenberry production of Star Trek. Okay, I'm going to read that again. I will often tell people my morality was based on Gene Roddenberry's production of Star Trek and Stan Lee via his monthly bullpen bulletins. I've never heard of that before. His monthly bullpen bulletins. I haven't loved every iteration of Star Trek, but the good far outweighs the bad. And when it's great, it will damn near bring tears to my eyes. I know Albie and Chris both share my long love of Trek and will do it proud. Well, Tom, as long as we bring tears to your eyes in a good way and not a bad way, I'd say that's our goal. Tears might be flowing, from some people. I think that, just saying, you guys don't really know what you're talking about, do you? Anyway, that's what they're saying about me. Our second bit of feedback. So thank you, Tom, for the wonderful
Tom, thank
feedback.
You so much. I really appreciate that. Was our first feedback and our first patron of the new show we're doing, Trexplorations. And usually my first feedback is not real on my other shows. You can go back and look. They're all from Gloria from Cleveland. But I thought with this audience, people would catch on to that. So we actually got
Gloria from Cleveland was your long distance girlfriend.
No, my long distance make believe pretend that's totally real girlfriend. That's not Jerry Ryan, but Jerry Ryan at home with no makeup on, lives in Canada.
Oh, I see.
Straight.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But thank you, Tom. I really appreciate that. He's a great.
Thank you, Tom. Our next bit of feedback comes from a viewer named Brent Japp. And Brent writes, wow, 2 of my favorite hosts together again. I can't wait to see their deep dive into all things Trek. Well, how do you like this first deep dive, Brent? I guess Brent is he's a fan of QLP, maybe?
He knows us through Trekaholic, my other Star Trek podcast. Okay. Trekaholic, another Star Trek podcast. He was a co-host of mine on a few episodes. Great guy. He lives in Canada, but he is real.
He's real. Okay.
Yes,
he's your real friend from Canada.
Yes.
Gotcha.
As opposed to my make-believe pretend girlfriend in Canada.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Brent. I have a lot of QLP bias, and I know a lot of the people who listen to the QLP. So, like, Tom's name is familiar to me, and your name wasn't, and I hope to hear more from you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
All right. And third and last, but not least, comes from our good friend, Peter Vonasak. Peter writes, hello, Albie and Christopher D. Philippus. Congrats on the new Spacecast. I look forward to your coverage of TNG and learning more about the lore. All I know is that a gentleman by the name of Darth Vader comes from the planet Vulcan. Signing off, and until next time, Peter. And that joke works on a couple of different levels because Peter also hosts the Back to the Future animated series podcast with
me. Yay. He's another one of my co-hosts. It's like they had an inside track. They knew we were starting a new show or something.
It's like who I wonder who tipped them off to this.
Yeah, that's pretty cool because I don't think Peter's a big Trekkie. And Brian Green actually is not a big Trekkie either, but they're going to give it a try since we're doing a new show. So
okay, cool. So if you guys are watching along for the first time, we're glad to have you. You're almost in the same position I am, so it's good to have other newbies with me.
It's going to be fun. And to send us feedback, go to Patreon / what?
It's patreon.com/Trexploration, TREKSPLRATION, but Albie's going to spell it across the screen for you. It's going to be a big banner. It's going to be a crawl across the bottom of the entire episode.
You're giving me more work to do. I'll do it this time.
And we do have some other social media that we may or may not use. There is apparently an Instagram profile for us. We're at Trexploration Pod, and we're also on X/Twitter at Trexploration. So, should we?
Do we want to give our email, or do we want to just have people leave feedback in Patreon?
I don't know. We have an email.
You have to check the email.
I always do, but we have an email.
Yeah, I think
if you people can't tell, we literally put this together yesterday.
So
Albie did a whole bunch of stuff today. I was out like doing laundry, running errands, and Albie's texting me saying, "We have a Patreon, we have an email, we have this." I'm like, "Oh, we do? Okay, I'll check it out when I get home."
All right.
I haven't gotten to the email yet.
Feedback on Patreon, that'd be great. We can read it from there. So
patreon.com/Trexploration. You can join for free. You don't have to join at any level, but you can be part of the community there.
What are those levels, Chris?
Oh, the levels are $5 a month. You can be a cadet for.
What do they get?
Oh, we're going to read that all again?
Well, you can condense it.
It's a lot. You get a lot.
You get extra bonus episodes not available to the public.
Yes. Okay. So cadet for $5. For $17.01 a month, you become a lieutenant commander like Tom Quinn, and you get members only video, including but not limited to the original series, DS9, Voyager, and Enterprise, and the audio podcast feed, exclusive content, behind the scenes access, and your name in the credits, and more. For $47 a month. Yeah, there's the 47 coming in. You can join as a captain, and you get access to all of the members only episodes, including but not limited to TOS, DS9, Voy, and Ent, and the episode podcast feed, and behind the scenes access, your name in the beginning and the end of the credits, and audio shout out in every episode, and you'll be invited to be a guest on our Captain's Roundtable show recordings, and more, ...
More.
At the Voyager level, $84.72 a month. You get all of that stuff that we mentioned, plus a producer credit and more, ... And then at the Badmiral level, which is just absolutely ridiculous.
Please don't sign up
for that. There.
Please.
For $1,000 a month.
Don't sign up for that. That's just to make the others look more affordable. That's right? $1,000? Who's got that kind of money?
Are you out of your mind? You get all of that other stuff and an exclusive custom episode of your choosing quarterly, and more ... Albie's gonna come and clean your carpets.
Now, I'm not gonna agree to that part. But think about it: a custom podcast, right? For this level. What if there's only one person at that level, right? And they want a custom podcast, maybe of a Firefly episode, maybe of a Battlestar Galactica episode, maybe of a Gilligan's Island episode.
I mean, can we refuse? I mean, if it's super
for that kind of money, I don't think so. I think that keeps the lights on. That keeps our equipment coming. That keeps our servers on. I think we'll talk about an Alf or an episode of Hogan's Heroes.
So we're for sale, is what Albie's saying. Yeah.
So that's that level. That's the $1,000. Don't sign up.
I just draw the line.
Don't sign up.
No full frontal nudity. No full frontal nudity. That's where I draw the line.
That's where he draws the line. Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
So if you want to choose a membership, it's all there at patreon.com/Trexploration. So go.
How do you think our exploration of Star Trek so far is going?
I'm liking it. It's better than I thought it would be, quite frankly. I find that whenever I get in front of a mic, I have more to say than I think. And I think that's why people both love and hate me.
That's why on our recent trip to New York, I brought a microphone with me and I constantly put it in your face.
Yeah, it was a little bit disconcerting.
It wasn't a microphone all the time.
Okay, you're really going to have to stop.
Tacos, sandwiches from Cat's Delicatessen. Come on, get your mind out of the gutter, my friend. We had a good time. We had what she was having. We had a great time. We saw the Statue of Liberty. What statue? I don't remember.
What statue? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah.
We saw where they ice skated, where the tree is.
Yeah.
What
It's
else?
called Rockefeller Center. Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Mariah
So-
Carey was not there at the time.
No, not that we saw. I mean, she might have been.
She might have been.
Yeah.
I know we're in
it's not
Times
that
Square at
she
the same
wasn't.
time Ariana Grande was, but we missed her because she was wearing a mask. But that's a long story. That's for the end more. Okay, so we still have what? Final thoughts and ratings? Is that what's left? What
Yeah.
else is
Final
left in
thoughts
the
and
show?
ratings. Final thoughts and ratings. That's what we got. So,
All right,
you want me to go
so-
first?
I'll go first. Yeah, sure. Final thoughts.
No, I said, do you want me to go first?
You can go first. Final thoughts. This is our first show. We don't know what we're doing. Encounter Farpoint. Final thoughts and ratings. 1 out of 5. 1 out of 5.
Okay.
What? We'll find out.
We'll find out. So, I have to say that the more I see this episode, the better I like it for different reasons. And I think I enjoyed it more this time than I have in any time that I've watched it. Again, maybe because I have more of an affinity for the next gen cast, but I kind of ended where the episode ended, with Deanna smiling with great joy and gratitude. And I felt like if I was going to be re-exploring this series with you, one of my best friends,
Thank you.
I'm happy that I felt that great joy and gratitude at the end of this episode. I feel like anticipation. I don't feel like I don't feel like a deer in the headlights anymore. I feel like this is going to be a fun journey, and I feel like this episode tees it up really well because it has really bad stuff in it, but it has really good stuff in it, and it has like really intriguing stuff in it. And I feel like if we can find that mix in this episode, which is really pretty universally maligned, we got a lot of good stuff ahead. So I'm going to give Encounter at Farpoint 3.5 Grappler Zorns out of 5.
Wow, 3.5 out of 5 Grappler Zorns. That's a good one. You did not steal mine. That's good. I came up with 2 just in case. For me, my final thoughts on this was, I'm going to echo what you said. This is I enjoyed this viewing so much more than previous viewings of it. I don't know if it's because I'm going into it because I get to talk to you about it, one of my best friends, or another reason it could be, or in addition to, is because this is the first time I'm going to go through Star Trek The Next Generation after season 3 ending of Star Trek Picard. And my stories and my characters have a proper ending. Before Picard, the ending was Star Trek 10, Nemesis. Woo, that's not a good way to end it.
Yeah.
A movie directed by a guy who didn't like Star Trek.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you, man.
So it was always a disappointing thing that these characters that I loved and lived with and spent so many thousands of dollars going to meet in person and hearing them speak and reading their books and consuming everything they put out and just being a super fan of everybody involved, from the writers, directors, producers, again, the actors, the costume designers, the set design, production, just taking it all in. And like you, reading the books to get more of the universe. It always hurt me that it ended with Star Trek Nemesis. And then when I saw Star Trek Picard season 1, I thought, wow, at least it's not ending with Nemesis. You know, I see more of these characters and we see Picard. But now that season 3 of Picard was season 8, really, of Next Gen, and it had a glorious, proper ending, I felt at that moment, I cried happy tears that my life was complete. So instead of going into it like, oh no, I got to get through the episodes before the big goodbye, before I start enjoying stuff, I was like, no, I'm going to enjoy this time through, because who knows, you know, it might be my last time. We don't know. You know, our tomorrows aren't guaranteed. It's true. You know, there's 900 episodes to go, right? But I went through this time really wanting to appreciate it and savor it and enjoy it. And I think I'm at an age where I can enjoy it and appreciate it for what it is and what it was. So I'm going to give it a little bit higher mark than you, I think. I'm going to give it a 4.7 Old Man McCoys.
Right on brand. I love it.
So I really enjoyed it. It brought joy to my heart. And again, everything about it. And I'm less about this episode and more about excited for the future of us talking about the whole series and the other series. We're gonna be talking about Enterprise, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, the original series. I'm sure the animated series will sneak in there someplace. Next time we'll be talking about is it the Naked Now episode 3 or 2, depending how you look at if episode 1 and 2 are counter Farpoint or episode 1. I think we'll go with that being 1 and 2. So 3 is Naked Now, right?
Yeah. Naked Now is next.
And next time we have Discovery season 5 episode 1 and 2. It's another 2-parter coming up. So they're airing 2 episodes of Discovery.
Can you again outline for the viewers before we go how this is going to work? So we're going to do a straight watch through of Next Gen, and that will be the main weekly show here on the channel.
Yeah, mostly weekly, unless we have vacations or trips or
whatever. Yeah, but the main regular gig is going to be talking about Next Gen, and then where does the bonus, the Voyager Enterprise? TOS
so the way it'll do it, I sent you a calendar. I set it up earlier today. Everything is just last minute, but this is the idea. As new episodes of Star Trek come out, we're going to cover those. Whatever our feelings of them are, we could talk about.
So Disco, new season,
There's 10
Section
episodes,
31 movie. Yeah, 10. I think 10.
10 episodes of season 5 of Disco, the last season of Disco. They're airing 2 episodes at the beginning of the season, so there's like 9 weeks of Disco.
Okay, so are we going to preempt? So we're going to be doing an episode of Next Gen and an episode of Disco?
Correct.
We're just going to preempt Next Gen while Disco is on.
The other series are going to be preempted by the brand new ones. So moving forward. So as there's no brand new episodes of Star Trek, then we'll be doing the Enterprise, Voyager, Deep Space Nine.
But will those be available on the main channel, or is that all
the first episode of every series will be on the main channel? You don't need to be a patron or anything. Just enjoy those to see what we feel and how you're liking it. Now, eventually, those ones will go on Patreon only, for the $5 level or more, depending on which series it is. But you'll be able to see our week-to-week shows on the new episodes airing on YouTube. We got YouTube memberships and also patrons. So there's all kinds of ways. Just go to the websites, go to the Patreon, go to the YouTube channel, which you're already on, or maybe the Patreon channel. Go to the other one, find out what we're doing, ask us a question, leave a comment, and we'll figure it out, and we'll let you know.
Yeah, we're still figuring it out, and I'm sure I'll catch on eventually. So
the main part is just enjoying Star Trek with my friend Christopher D. Philippus.
Well, I'm happy to be enjoying it here with you, Albert Mark Burge. And it's nice this is my first video show. I'm always Mr. Podcast.
I think so. We got you moved into the 20th century there. Video killed the radio star.
I guess it had to happen. I'm a buggle.
Yeah, you're a buggle.
Anyway, yeah. Well, I'm going to count on you then to lead us. You lead us in. Why don't you lead us out, sir? Play us out.
Well, this has been the first episode, the premiere episode of Trek-Exploration with Christopher D. Philippus and me, Albie, talking about Star Trek The Next Generation. Make sure to come back, subscribe, check out our Patreon, do all the things, share it, let people know, hey, there's another Star Trek podcast. And hey, it's the second best Star Trek podcast ever. It's got these 2.
And it's not a podcast. That's what makes it so interesting.
It's portable. It's on demand. I think it's a podcast. It's just a video podcast. It's 2 talking heads,
gotcha.
But
it's a vlog. It's our Star Trek vlog.
Yeah, it's our vlog. It's our story. I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So make sure to subscribe. Join us next time where we'll be talking about the Naked Now. Make sure you watch the episode again because it's fun to watch it along with us, whether it's the first time or the 100th time. Watch the Naked Now. Make sure to check out on Paramount Plus, is that what they're calling it now? Yeah. Disco season 5 episode 1 and 2. And if you aren't familiar with them and don't want to watch the first 4 seasons, Whoopi Goldberg did a great thing on Paramount Plus's YouTube channel where she gives you a condensed the first seasons of Disco so you can enjoy it. So that's something to watch. And just subscribe, share, come back here every time there's a new episode and join us. Leave a comment, join our Patreon. Send us feedback. We're here to build a crew, and we've already got a Lieutenant Commander cosplay dad, Tom Quinn. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
So for
All right.
Trek Explorer, I'm Albie.
For Trexploration, I'm
Damn
Chris.
it. I'll try it again. I won't cut it out because we're still learning. Okay, for Trek Exploration, I'm Albie.
And I'm Chris.
And we'll see you next time.